Good morning, friends. For those of you that are associated with Mayo in any way, whether you're an employee, the spouse of an employee, or you go there as a patient, I just want to share my heart for just a moment. So today's January 3rd, and if you are not already well aware, the vaccination policy goes into place at noon today. What does that mean? That means that some really beloved people in my life are being fired today. And regardless of what you think about the efficacy of the vaccine, regardless of what you think about whether a medical institution should have 100% vaccination rate, that's still not going to be the case at Mayo, right? Because they did have the option for medical and religious exemption forms. So Mayo is not 100% vaccinated in their staff members today. They just pick and chose people. And if you think it was fair how they did it, I do encourage you to ask and talk to people who went through the process. Because I've talked to a lot of them, and it was grueling. It was interrogating. And that's how they felt. That's how they described it. That's their experience with it. And some people poured out their hearts and their religious beliefs and were told that they weren't good enough. And yet, these people's religious beliefs are so strong that they're getting fired today. And if that doesn't prove how sincerely held that belief is, I don't know what does. I really don't. So my husband works in a medical transport department. Okay? It's an emergency transport department, okay? This is a department that its whole goal is to save lives and give emergent care. They're short-staffed already. My husband has been working 60-hour weeks, okay? And other people who have chosen on their own to get the inoculation have been leaving for better jobs. So it's getting more short-staffed. And then today, they're firing a pilot and a mechanic and maybe others because, some of these people didn't want to speak up about what was going on because they felt shamed and embarrassed that they were trying to go through the process. But at this point, it's clear probably who's leaving. You might not even know. If you're in a department, you might not even know someone will be fired today, and they may be someone you love working with, and they've kept their mouth shut. Okay, so today this pilot, mind you, the only female pilot in the department, so much for diversity, right? She's getting fired. And my husband has described her as the best of the best. She's awesome, okay? And she saves lives with her job. And so now, and by the way, she's COVID recovered. She wears a mask. She doesn't touch patients. She isn't out to kill people, okay? Like, she's out to save lives, okay? And so now they're going to be more short-staffed. And I'm looking ahead in the next few months. And, my husband's not going to leave that plane unstaffed whenever he can help it. And he's going to work till burnout. And I know it. And is that better? Is it better that our transport crews are working till burnout? Is it safer? Is it better? I'm sorry. I'm just so today's hard. Is it Is it better that someday someone calls for a flight and they don't get it? A medical flight that they need that they don't get because there aren't enough pilots. My husband transported a baby the other night. What if that baby is your baby and you call and you need help and you don't get it? I have a dear friend who's had an organ transplant. Organs need to be transported within 24 hours or maybe less. Sometimes, I'm not sure, each organ might have different time frames, but they have to be in that person in a very specific time frame. What if the plane is unstaffed and an organ's available in another state and someone here needs a life-saving transplant and that plane can't fly because they fired a pilot who's sitting at home, who's willing to work, but she's been deemed not good enough to work because her views aren't strong enough? So she's willing to get fired? Meanwhile, other people were allowed to stay because, I don't know why, like, they're better writers. Like, I've talked to some of these people about what they said they believed and what they said they put, and I don't really see the difference in some of them. I really would love to see some feedback from Mayo about how they chose, because, like, it doesn't add up to me. And also they're firing, if I didn't say this, the mechanic as well. So that makes me feel great because, like, they need mechanics to make sure that the plane is in good working condition or the plane can't fly. So, like, they might have 2 pilots on, but there's something wrong with the plane. So they still might not be able to fly, right? If the mechanic can't fix maybe even a minor problem that he could have fixed within the hour to get them up in the air. And so, yeah, like, I just want to be clear, too. If you think, oh, well, they'll just, like, go and hire more people, right? Like, they'll just fill these positions. Like, I want to be clear about the reality. Last I heard, there are less applicants for the positions that are open than positions. There are less applicants, and that's just who's applied. Like, I don't know if they're qualified. I don't know if they're good pilots. Like, the woman that's being fired today has scruples. She has ethics. She works hard and she cares. And she saves lives in her job. And I pray that the Lord blesses her as she goes home and she has kids, and I hope that she is just blessed with more time with them and enjoys that God blesses her in her life, whatever she does. But if you haven't thought about this, I just want you to. I just want you to think about if this is safer in the long run. Like, are we trading one form of safety, like, for this other form that is not really safer? Is not having medical transport crews staffed safer? Is it? Are we putting out one fire? Not even fully, right? Because, like, again, I will state that the Mayo staff is not 100% vaccinated. Some people have medical exemptions. Some people have religious exemptions. So today, Mayo will not be 100% vaccinated. But they're firing some people who are standing firm in a conviction that they declared was not strong enough. And so we're making holes in the department. And Mayo decided to do this, and it appears that they're going through with it. And if you haven't realized yet what's going on with this, if you haven't had people in your life that have talked to you about what's going on, I just urge you to think about it. And I just want to make one other thing clear. I love you all, especially, this is to my Christian brothers and sisters, okay? I know a lot of you are talking about loving your neighbor. And I agree. We need to love our neighbor. Like, that is a command. We must love our neighbor, okay? But I just want to be clear that, like, let's say, have you read the 5 love languages, right? Like, if you love someone with physical touch, but you leave out quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, someone might feel like they're not fully loved, right? There's more than one way to love people, okay? So, like, if your desire was to love people by getting the vaccination, and like, great. But I also want to urge you that it's also loving your neighbor to care that they have their livelihood. It to care about their whole heart, mind, soul. Okay. Some of these people are agonizing. I know people that did get the vaccination to save their jobs, and they feel dead inside over it. Like, they are struggling mentally. So, like, we talk all the time about caring about people's mental health. Like, just because you don't agree with them on this specific thing doesn't mean that their mental health doesn't matter. It does. Okay? I think it's just important that we remember that, like, go and look at Romans 14, right? It says there, I was just reading it this morning again. It says, that we are, like, some people are going to see things a different way, right? To go against our conscience is sin. And I just feel like some people are actually trying to push other people to go against their conscience on this. And I feel like that's pushing them to sin. And some that have done that feel like they have done what is sin to them, okay? You don't have to see it the way they see it. That's okay. We're all going to answer to God for what we do, period, okay? But just remember, like, also, if you want to say love your neighbor, there's passive and active loving your neighbor, right? Like, okay, so if you get the vaccination to love your neighbor, you're getting it to do no harm, right? But you weren't planning to do harm. You weren't intentionally doing harm. You were doing it to hopefully prevent not doing an accidental harm to somebody, right? Just like maybe we might try to pay attention when we drive or something, right? And if you did accidentally hit someone with a car, like, that sucks, but you didn't mean to, okay? Like, I don't know anyone out there, like, on either side of the spectrum that's looking to get people sick, okay? I just don't, okay? But then there's active loving too, right? Like, actively caring about what is actually happening, which is people are being fired and they're losing their jobs. And if you don't care that they're losing their jobs and you think they ought to have done the right thing, like, just know that, like, this could hurt you too. Like, if you need medical care from an emergency transport department that isn't staffed, or someone you love does, like, that could hurt you. Okay? Any Mayo employees out there? Remember how you get this awesome perk where, like, you're anywhere in the world and you have a medical event. Mayo has promised to come and pick you up and bring you back to Mayo so that you can get medical care at Mayo. That's awesome. That gives me peace of mind when my family travels. I love it. Love it. I bet you love it too, right? Do you see a problem with the idea of firing pilots sometimes? I'm just saying, okay? Like, I think that this whole thing has been filled with so much shame. This whole thing has been, people aren't talking about it, okay? And I'm just putting this out there. I really am, in love. Like, if you don't care that they're losing their jobs, I hope that you at least open your eyes to, like, that this could hurt you. That all these people in these positions had them for a reason. They were employed for a reason, and they're going to be gone. And I just don't know that I'm convinced that this is safer. And I just pray blessings over these people today, over their hearts and minds, okay? If you're at Mayo, you're probably going to see some people get walked out like delinquents at noon, and that's the reality. And the reality is, like, I'm just hoping that my kids aren't struggling with their dad being gone constantly and that we don't burn out over here. But we're gonna do what we can as a family to see that plane stay in operation and see my husband continue to save lives, because that's what he does and that's his calling, and he will keep doing that until God calls him somewhere else. And it's just, if you're rejoicing today, I just want you to know that some of your brothers and sisters aren't, okay? They're not. I can tell you how many tears I've shed thinking about these people, these awesome people, like the people that bring life to the department and the people that I would trust my life with, like not only my life because I believe that they would keep me safe in an airplane, but my life because they're good people. So, just something to chew on today. May God bless you today.